See, I put this up here, right? I did misspell it. That's why there's a big gap. Too many M's. I put this up here. Heroes Assembled, right? And already some of you are thinking of the DC Comics and all that kind of stuff, and superheroes and the wonderful things that they can do. Good. That's what I wanted. Some of you used to go, anyway, that's fine. That plays into my hands. And others are just thinking, it's a bunch of people who are together who are heroes. I think it's a good subtitle for Hebrews 11, where we're reading about all these heroes that has gone on in our history and the things that have managed to achieve. So it is that. And I want you to kind of think like that, this other out of worldliness, not of this world type of thing, that's going on in God's universe, where we all live and participate. So you woke up this morning eventually. You woke up this morning, didn't we eventually wake up this morning? See, my neighbours were fighting on Saturday about 3 in the morning, and they banged. All right, that was me. I lost a whole night's worth of sleep, so I'm still recovering. So we woke up this morning, and you woke up this morning, and you got up and you rubbed your eyes and you went for a pee, and then you washed it. Kathy, everybody pees. It's human. Jeez. Even the Queen, you got up, right, so you did your ablutions, and you washed your face, right, and you went in and you put the kettle on, made a cup of tea, and then you started to get dressed, and then before you left you went for another pee before you came to church. And so you did all these kind of ordinary stuff that we ordinarily sort of do. We're ordinary people, and some of you we do ordinary jobs, and some of you do slightly less ordinary jobs. Some of you teach people and manage people, but even then themselves, there's plenty of people who do that. You know, they're just kind of ordinary sort of lives that go on. I'm going to try and persuade you this morning that there is another side to you, that there is something that is more extraordinary at times going on. Because let's face it, right? Let's face it. You're the type of people who believe in miracles. And if stuff can happen, otherworldly stuff happens. We believe in that. We believe in that kind of stuff, that outrageous stuff that sometimes we read about and we tell people about. And I want to try and convince you that your faith enables you to become that little bit more extraordinary. That indeed you might just be living lives as a Clark Kent, ordinary, everyday sort of lives going on, when there's much, much more. So, Hebrews 11, where the heroes assemble. The guys have been talking about it for months, been coming up here and saying various things, until we eventually reached Gideon and his exploits. So I thought I'd take us through a wee bit of Bible verses, and maybe catch up a wee bit on who Gideon was, in case you forgot. Right? Like me. Just exactly, maybe just a wee flavour of what's going on. So I'll take us through a wee bit of Judges. I'll jump some verses at times and try and just give us a wee flavour of it. So we're in Judges in the chapter 6. So I'll just jump about till we get to 7. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts and in caves and in strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites and the Amalekites and other eastern peoples, they would invade the country. They camped on the land and they ruined the crops all the way to Gaza. And they did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep nor cattle nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock and their tents like a swarm of locusts. It was impossible to count them, all their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. And when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, and I rescued you from the hands of the Egyptians. And I delivered you from the hands of your oppressors. I drove them out before you, and I gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, the land in where you live. But you have not listened to me." And the angel of the Lord came down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash, where his son Gideon was threshing the wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all the wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us over to the hand of Midian." And the Lord turned to him and said, Go in the strength that you have, and save Israel out of the Midian's hands. Am I not sending you?" "Oh, pardon me, Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." And the Lord answered him, "I will be with you, and you will strike down the Midianites, leaving none alive." And Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that is really you talking to me." And what begins to happen is he says, "Well, okay, I will go and make a broth. I'll bring it to you. I'll make some bread and I'll bring it to you, and I'll make my offering to you." And that miraculously disappears. Hopefully a sign that God is with them. Not only that, but during the interval, where we pick up in verse 36, he's also asked that he go and tear down the altar to Baal, and they cut down the Asherah pole, because that's where the people have ended up. So he's gone and he's done that. We pick it up in verse 36. Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand as you promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said." And that's exactly what happened. Gideon rose early the next day, and he squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, and there was a bowl full of water. Then he said to God, what is it with these people? Then he said to God, "Look, don't be angry with me, but let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece, but this time make the fleece dry and leave the ground be covered in dew." And that night God did that, so only the fleece was dry and the ground was covered in dew. So early next morning, Gideon and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreb. And the Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian to your hands, or Israel will boast against me. They will say, 'My own strength has saved me.' Now, announce to your army, everyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave." So 20,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. 22,000 men left and 10,000 remained. 22,000 left and 10,000 remained. But the Lord said to Gideon, "There are still too many. And take him down to the water, and I will thin him out for you. If I say this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go, he shall not go." So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongues as dogs lap from those who kneel down to drink." 300 of the men drank from cupped hands like lapped dogs, and all the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, "With these 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midians into your hands. Let all the others go home." So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 and took over their provisions and their trumpets. Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in their hands of all of them, with torches inside. "Watch me," he said to them, and follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout, for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and his 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after they had changed the guard, and they blew their trumpets and broke their jars that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew their trumpets and smashed the jars, grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets. They began to blow, and they shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. While each man held his position around the camp, and the Midians, they ran and they cried out and they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. And so they won the battle. Mental. Absolutely mental. So Gideon joins us assembly of heroes in the book of Hebrews. Some of these stories, well, I don't know if we're being kind to ourselves when we call them stories, because it's our histories. When we tell people this kind of stuff, if we tell people that, so this is what Gideon did, right? He had like 30,000 men, and it was whittled down to about 300, and he went and attacked these people who just covered the land, and he managed to defeat them. Well, that's a bit kind of much. And I don't know if you've ever, when you engage people about your religion and what you believe and all this kind of stuff, and you sometimes get down in the nitty gritty, if people ever said to you, what planet are you on? Oh, do you really believe that? Did you think that really means that and that really happened? And of course there is stuff that you go, yeah, that's the way it happened. Because let's face it, although we are flesh and blood and we live in the world, when we come to God's book, we talk about things that are sometimes outrageous, and some things that are supernatural, some things that are miraculous. We're talking about things that it's really hard to believe. We start with bushes that burn, but the bush doesn't really burn. And we talk about people who grow old but never die, like Enoch, taken up and taken away. Oh, really? What planet, son? This planet? Outrageous stuff, mental stuff, where people are asked to build big, gigantic boats and put a certain amount of people in it and animals in it because God's going to flood the world. Ooh, is that right? Stuff like outrageous stuff where parents who are barren will be allowed to produce children, and other stuff that people raise from the dead, other stuff that are quite outrageous when you think about it. And I know when I'm having conversations with people, they don't believe that we believe, but we have a wee bit of dilemma. We're kind of in the world. We knock up against the wooden, concrete, metally things, and yet we believe on these miraculous, supernaturally things that we believe that are going on. So we find that our reference points are so very different from so many other people when we tell them what it is that we believe. And so I guess you can kind of look at it that there's this parallel world going on. There is a world that is very worldly that we live in, but we believe in this other world that seems to be overlaid ours, where God comes and He interacts with us, like these people that we hear about in Hebrews 11. These people who have done extraordinary things and not so extraordinary things, but in faith have managed to achieve so very much. So where the two worlds seem to interact is in us. It seems to kind of cross over there. So when people say, yeah, but what planet are you on? Do you really believe that these things kind of go on? Well, what is it the guys have been saying for weeks on end? If we live on a planet, I tell you what the planet is we live on. Faith. Planet, faithfulness. When you live on that planet, you can believe a lot of things. You can believe that the dead will rise. You can believe that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. When you live in that planet, in God's universe, then you believe that a lot of extraordinary things can go on, as well as pretty ordinary things that can go on. You can believe that 300 men can rout thousands upon thousands. Although we live in this earth and its worldliness, we actually live in God's universe. God who put it all here, who makes it all tick, who let it all fall into place. That's where we live. And I believe that any one of us here could be a Gideon if they need their eyes in faith. We could be a Gideon. We could be a Moses. We could be a Rahab. We could be these people. The only difference was a faith and what it caused them to act out. Because we live in God's universe on a planet called faithfulness, which is tremendous and scary at the same time. Because what I'm effectively saying is that you and I could join this. Hebrews 11, heroes assembled. That you and I could be these kind of people. Because the only difference is what their faith called them to do. That you and I, that this is history for us. This is you and I. This is our worlds. That maybe you and I, no maybe, we know that you and I are here to do more, in our ordinary lives, when we put our trousers on one at a time, that you and I, after we wash our face, do all the ordinary things, can go out and be faithful and do other stuff that seems extraordinary at times because we believe, even if it is just in the end, to shine bright and to confess what it is that we believe. Guess what? It's nearly done, right? This part is a wee bit easier for me because basically it's everything that the guys have been saying over the last few weeks. If you could recall all that, if you could remember all that, if you could put bits of it together, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff when we read the Bible. It's the same stuff when it's a supper. It's the same stuff when it's a lesson. Good. It's consistent. Right. We can look into God's Word. Everything's consistent. Let's have a look. Is it the way that it should be? Yes, it is. Something John said last week in his wee lesson, even though it wasn't about Hebrews 11. He says, isn't it better, doesn't it feel better to believe when you believe God's in charge? His universe. Yes. And use that wee illustration about, when you're in the swing and you get pushed higher and you look back and it's a stranger, suddenly you don't feel so secure. But when it's God that's in charge, you feel secure. You feel strong, faithful, willing, all that kind of stuff. Yes, when you know it's God's universe and God works. He also used a wee illustration of, what if Jesus lived your life for 7 days? How would that look? How would that feel? How would that change things? Yes! Imagine you had the mind of Christ and you lived that sort of life. That you were able to focus on things above and to unify that into one body, that you are Christ-like, living that sort of life, having the security to be focused and fused in the one body, Christ-like, in faithfulness. This is us transformed, now living as heroes by being faithful. We don't look into this world. We don't look into this world. We are in this world. We believe these outrageous things. We believe if we were called upon that it could happen to us. In faith, as called, not looking in, but part of, assembled with. Not necessarily bitten by a radioactive spider, or gamma rays. No, in step with the Spirit, being blessed with the Spirit, changing our lives, armed with a malleable faith, Derek said. Isn't that a wonderful word? That was one of my favourite words. Malleable faith. And everything that he said around that, why it's malleable. We are different. How we handle things, all that kind of stuff. So that's Planet Faith. Where we are. That's the malleable faith. And the other thing that spins together with it is that the unforced rhythms of grace that go with that hand in hand, that function in God's universe, while we're being faithful, all that kind of stuff. I love that. I think there's so much packed into that phrase, the unforced rhythms of grace. I'm just using the stuff that the guys have said in the last few weeks. Just recalling it, remembering it. This is us. This is us. Priest-like, faithful, believing, called upon, ordinary folk who understand the spiritual cost, like Rahab did. Part of what David was saying. At some point she understood the cost, the spiritual cost, changed her life, became different. Because why? Because of the promises of God. Part of the lesson that Richard said not that long ago. The promises that are kept. But sometimes there's a cost. If you're God's special possessions, like we read at the beginning of Judges there, the excerpt I read, they misbehaved. They paid a price, and they had to pay a price because of God's special possession. That happens sometimes. And if you can remember, that was part of some of the lesson from Mark and his tumble dryer story. That's why I have a tumble dryer in space. Because there's a cost of being God's special possession. So that floats about in space, part of the goings on in the planet that we live on. Planet. Faith. All that going on. So, I know you don't. We live in a world, but we're not really a part of it. And you know what? If this is what we find in Hebrews about the heroes and those that are special possession of God, were the heroes assembled? Well, guess what church might be? Potential heroes gathered here, assembled, church on a Sunday. My goodness. Just imagine or use God's universe with faith. Heroes assembled, not too unlike Gideon, Rahab, all these people. The church assembled, heroes assembled, each with their different traits, each with their own jobs to do differently, some working silently, some not so silently, all going on, working away, but also working away differently, but in sync. What a thing God has brought to pass. How much can be achieved by ordinary people and faith? This is the great adventure that God has placed on us. Ordinary people doing his thing in the threshing floor. Angel appears, plenty of faith. So there's things that you will be called to. The things that you're called to, you know it. Sometimes you feel the pull to do it. And it'll be different from what I'm doing. Some of you will be carrying trumpets and lanterns, and others will be talking to burning bushes. No, it's a burning bush, honest. Come and see it. Whatever form it takes, and faith, in the end, will make you a hero. Faith will make you a hero. So, oh dear, I don't want to say all that other stuff. But it's maybe important to remember another thing that guy Derek said. Sorry. But the idea that the faithfulness and the sinfulness kind of coexist. I'm not saying we are heroes all the time. We're not. We're sinful people. But the two can coexist in the faithfulness. And what can be brought about? Man, we believe that from a virgin can come a child. Outrageous. We believe it. We believe it. We get something to share with the world, and it'll be difficult for them, but we do believe and understand, and it makes us part of this world, looking out into this world. We're ordinary Christians who are being referred to sometimes as priests. We are people who try to love and to do and to be. Well, with faith, much can be achieved. We've seen it. We know it. This itself is proof. Thanks.